that.
Okay, really just gonna introduce Giovanni, and he will go over the program and everything that's gonna happen and how it will work and get this thing started. Thank you all for coming. Take care.
Hello? Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, excellent. Good evening. Thank you for attending the debate for the 131st District State Representatives race between Republican candidates Representative Justin Simmons and his challenger Bill Coyle. Just a quick note, if you need, restrooms are in the back corner here, and there's some beverages on the back corner this side if you need. I'll start by explaining the rules. The candidates have agreed to the rules, so I want to explain them to the audience so you understand the framework we'll use. The audience is welcome to ask questions. We place the microphone in the front and invite you to come up and ask your questions. We'll work your questions in between the questions we received through email and your live questions here. For fairness, we ask that your questions be framed in a way that both candidates can give a response, because we want to keep the debate as fair as possible as far as time allotted to both candidates to speak. We also ask that if you come up to the microphone that you not editorialize. Take about 30 seconds to ask your question, and if we find that you're running over and rambling, then we're going to just cut the mic and go to an emailed question. If you want, you can also submit a question in writing. If you're too shy to use the microphone, that's fine. Just put your hand up and John will run a card over to you with a pencil. You can write your question down and then I will read it. Opening and closing statements will be limited to approximately 4 minutes for each candidate. The opening statement will be determined by a coin flip. The closing statement then will be in the opposite order that the opening statement was in. We'll let the challenger, in this case Bill, call the coin toss. Answers to questions, except for the first two, since those are extended questions, will be limited to about a minute, and if needed, a 30-second rebuttal from the other candidate. We'll take a little bit longer time-wise for the first two questions. So at this point, we'll do the coin toss and get started. That'll be the head. It's an eagle, so I'll let you call it. Heads, okay. You get to go first.
Hello, is this okay? First of all, thanks, John, for hosting this event. Appreciate it. And Giovanni, thank you for moderating. I understand Megan Kelly wasn't available, so you had to step in, and I appreciate it. And thank you all for coming. I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about my background and my history. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, went to college in New Mexico at a military school called New Mexico Military Institute, where I was on a basketball scholarship, and I was also in the ROTC, and then transferred to another school, and finally finished at High Point University in North Carolina, where I played baseball and basketball. After that, I got a job in a furniture factory in Hickory, North Carolina, and I worked in every department of that furniture factory, from loading trucks to packaging materials to finally customer service, and customer service was by far the hardest because nobody calls customer service with easy questions, so that was the most difficult part. Then I moved back to the Lehigh Valley and started my career in manufacturers' wholesale sales. And then shortly thereafter, I met my wife of 18 years, Missy, who's in the first row here. We have two children, John, who's 15, and Emily, who's 12, and they're both students in the Southern Lehigh School District. People have asked me why I decided to run, and it started with the campaign promise that Justin made that he would only run 3 terms, but it really evolved into something more than that, that I feel that I have a different vision for what the job can be, and if I am elected, a few of the things that I would like to employ are that upon election, I would like to reach out to the local representatives and senators in the greater Lehigh Valley and form a coalition, or a caucus, if you will, for the greater Lehigh Valley, I think that our area is one of the greatest areas that I've ever been, and I want to keep it that way, and I want to grow it. And I think if we can get our legislators together, we can accomplish great things. We're the third biggest economic engine in the state. We're the 75th in the entire country. And if we were a country of our own, we'd be the 104th largest country by GDP. So we have a lot going for us already, but I believe there's more that can be accomplished. I've met with the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation, and those guys do public and private. It's not all public. It's a lot of private enterprise that helps grow our community. And we're talking about some of the topics tonight will be the TIFs, the NIS, the CRIS, all the different acronyms that you can name. And a lot of those are because of our tax structure that we have in the state today. And I have a tax plan that I'll try to initiate and try to grow and try to help our business, that we don't have to rely on CRISs and CAS and all the other acronyms that they have. But first, I'd like to eliminate the inheritance tax. I think it's patently unfair that we have an inheritance tax when you spend your whole life working and paying taxes, and then you die and you have to give money back to the state. I just think that's patently unfair. I think it's costing us seniors who are better income seniors who can contribute to our economy by them moving to states that don't have the inheritance tax. I'd like to reduce our corporate tax rate to 5.5% and at worst keep our personal income tax the same, because personal income tax is people that are self-employed. It's not just people that are working, but it's people that have their own businesses and are self-employed. And I think it's penal on them and inhibits their ability to add employees if we continue to tax them. And then finally, reform the pension in the legislature. Both Justin and myself pledged not to take the pension, and I think that's very commendable of both of us. However, I think pension reform has to start in the legislative branch and be separate from all else, because the legislative branch is the smallest, and if you're the smallest, you can impact greater change there, and then you have more legitimacy when you go after the pensions of the teachers. So that's my plan if I'm elected, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, and Giovanni and Bob, thank you so much for putting this together tonight. I like to stand, so I'm sorry, I just like to stand. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I'm glad to see so many friends in the audience. My family's here. My lovely wife of 4 years now, Erica, is here. We just had our first baby 2 months ago. We named her Reagan. Nothing to do with being Republican or anything. But we named her Reagan. It's our first. She's about going to be 3 months old, over 10 pounds now. Fatherhood is so enjoyable. I'm running for a fourth term. Mr. Coyle is absolutely right. When I did first run in 2010, I did say I would run for 3 terms and then I would not run again. Events changed things. When I ran in 2010, I did not know Tom Wolf would be the governor in Pennsylvania, who is, by the way, America's most liberal governor. I also did not realize how long it would take to change things here in Pennsylvania. The legislative process is an extremely slow, cumbersome, and frustrating process. I don't agree with it either. I'm sure Bill Coyle doesn't agree with it either. But the system is the way it is. And I want to continue to stay in there and fight. The fact of the matter is, I did not make a final decision on what I was going to do with regard to running for a fourth term until December. I actually had a job offer on the table that I declined because I wanted to continue to represent the people of my district. And the people of my district have continued to ask me to run for office. I believe you've seen through the public support in my district, through the yard signs, through our internal polling, and I believe you're going to see on election day, that people have asked me to run again.
Yes.
I have not done anything that has been illegal. I have not been indicted. I have not been like the mayor of Allentown or the attorney general of our state. Yes, I made a mistake. I made a term on the pledge. But I have stood for conservative principles time and time again when I have been in Harrisburg. I don't know if you guys realize what happened yesterday. Yes. Our budget, the governor is letting the budget that the House Republicans negotiated go into law. I can't tell you what a victory. I cannot tell you how big of a victory this is for Pennsylvania. We have a governor that won by 9 points in Pennsylvania, and we have a Republican legislature. And conservatives like myself stood strong against this governor and said, no, we are not going to agree to your tax increases on working Pennsylvanians. And we stood strong. We stood strong. And I got to tell you, the last 9 months have been hell. But I'm not going to compromise with a radical liberal governor. My opponent has said in his opening statement that he will compromise with Governor Tom Wolf. The idea of compromising with Tom Wolf, in his opinion, is agreeing to tax increases. My opponent has admitted to meeting with my former predecessor, Representative Karen Beyer. Do you guys know who Representative Karen Beyer is? Yes. The most liberal Republican in the House of Representatives. Always agreed to every one of former Democratic governors Ed Rendell's tax increases. My opponent has surrounded, I always say you are who you surround yourself with. My opponent has support from the president of the East Penn Teachers Union Association here in the East Penn School District, Susan Arnold, a radical left-wing Democrat. I challenge you to go on her Twitter and see what she says about Republicans. This is not a Republican. This is not a conservative. As I said on my Facebook, he's a Trojan horse. What this is a demonstrated attempt by the left to take me out in the Republican primary because they cannot win in a general election. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad Mr. Coyle made a reference to Megyn Kelly because it reminded me of a statement I wanted to make in the beginning, and that is that I don't want this debate to be like any of the presidential debates we've seen on TV that has just descended into near anarchy. So let's try to keep to the time limits the best we can, and if the audience, I certainly appreciate applause, but let's just make sure we keep everything civil. I was in the military, I served in the Army, and the one thing that I learned was after the first shot is fired, the plane goes right out the window. And my first question was already addressed by Representative Simmons in his opening statement. It was going to be about your term limits, your pledge to not run for more than 3 terms. And since you've already told the public your reason for running again, I'll just skip that portion of opening question number 1, and I'll go to Mr. Coyle on this. Mr. Coyle, you have challenged Representative Simmons on the premise that he should stick to his term limit pledge. What is your position on term limits? And since you've challenged Representative Simmons, are you committed to make any kind of term limits, set any kind of term limits on yourself this evening?
My position on term limits is you should adhere to them when you make them. And if there's any other military personnel in the room, please raise their hand. Anybody? Okay. And Giovanni. And if you've served in the military, the first thing you learn is there are no excuses. And all I hear is excuses about this term limit pledge. That is your word. Your word is binding. To make excuses, and those of you who are in the military know the comment about excuses, that everybody has its rear ends and opinions, and they all stink, and that's what excuses are. And that's just what I hear from Justin Simmons. That's it.
As to the second part of the question, are you willing to make any term limit commitments this evening?
If Justin would like to follow through with a secondary term limit since he violated the first, I'd be happy to make another term limit. I don't have to make a term limit pledge.
Okay. That's your Would you like to make a rebuttal?
Look, Mr. Coyle is a one-issue candidate. He wants this job for some reason. Again, came out in the press the other day that former Democratic member Jennifer Mann helped to recruit him to run for office against me in the Republican primary. The fact that he's running on a term limit pledge and won't commit to term limit pledge to himself is striking to me. I said, I admit I made a mistake on the term limit pledge. I made a mistake. I did not do anything illegal. I am sorry I made the pledge, but you know what? I have not gone to Harrisburg and sold out like politicians in Washington, D.C. I have voted conservatively. And Bill Coyle is using this issue to mask the fact that he's not a conservative.
Everybody.
Thank you, Representative Simmons. Go ahead, Mr. Coyle.
I'm not running on term limit pledges. I'm running on honesty and integrity. He had made a pledge. He is not keeping it, period. That's it. That's why I'm running.
Honesty and integrity. I have a colleague in the House of Representatives. His name is Representative Harry Lewis Jr. Bill Coyle yesterday on the radio made a lying statement that Mr. Lewis said that I don't attend committee meetings because I serve on a committee with Mr. Lewis. You flat out lied, Bill. Harry Lewis sent an email to Bobby Gunther Walsh, and Bobby Gunther Walsh had to correct the record on the radio today because Bill Coyle flat out lied. You know what happened today? Bill Coyle drove down to Harry Lewis's office and tried to bully his staff into making a letter on state letterhead that said I wasn't in the office and they had to kick him out. That's not character.
All right. Would you like one more rebuttal?
It's just another lie. It's a series of lies. I drove down there because I couldn't believe that it was Harry that would write that. And I did not bully anyone. I did not get thrown out. I've never been thrown out of any establishment in my entire life. And it's almost laughable, the depth that he'll go.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to opening question number 2. This one will start with you, Mr. Coyle. You were quoted that compromise within reason as necessary for lawmaking. In this case, no one disputes that political negotiation is necessary for functional government. However, you are challenging to replace Representative Simmons, who took a hard line against Governor Wolf's tax and spend budget agenda, successfully holding to no tax increases. What would you have done differently than Representative Simmons to compromise or negotiate with Governor Wolf?
Well, first off, that was not a quote. That was, if you go to the article, it is not a quote that I said that. It was posed to me by the reporter. He said, where do you lean? Would you be more willing to talk to people? And this is what my opponent is holding me to, is talking to people like Jennifer Mann and Karen Beyer. These people are Americans first, and I refuse to let somebody tell me who I can and cannot talk to. This is America. I can talk to whoever I want, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let somebody tell me who I cannot talk to. Everybody I've talked to, including John Doncha, should be upset because I also talked to him. I had lunch with him, and he can actually attest to my fiscal responsibility. We had lunch at Armetta's and shared a chicken parmesan sandwich. So I've met with tons of people, and I'm going to continue to do that. I don't regret any of them. I wouldn't change them a bit. And that's the way I live my life. I don't live my life asking people, are you Republican or are you conservative Republican? People are people, period.
No one.
Hold on 1 second. Mr. Coyle, you still have some more time. He mistakenly put that up if you wanted to continue.
And Bill, no one's saying that, but it's about who you surround yourself with. You're not talking about the issues. You're going around saying you're not really different than me on anything, but you're surrounding yourself with liberal Republicans. You're surrounding yourself with the teacher union president who's against paycheck protection, who's against pension reform. The people you are surrounding yourself with are hardline radical liberals that have gone against me in every election as Democrats. And people are wondering, why are they surrounding themselves with you? And you won't talk about the issues. So are you a conservative or are you not a conservative? Will you stand up to the teachers union?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, you can rebut.
Absolutely, I'll stand up to the teachers union.
So are you going to tell Sue Arnold that?
I am not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'll talk to
She's got
Susan.
4 of your yard signs up.
Absolutely. Watch yourself. I will absolutely. If somebody wants to put up yard signs, that's fine. I mean, they're free to do that, and it doesn't indicate support. I'm not surrounded by people. The people that I'm surrounded by are my campaign chair, who is an executive at Embassy
And
Bank.
his dad just gave me a check.
And he gave me a check too. So we're even. Good. Glad to hear it. And I have about 6 people that have previously given him checks that are giving me checks. Does that indicate that their support for you is now that I'm a liberal Republican, whatever that is?
Okay. Before the next question, please no interrupting. That's kind of what I was referring to about the presidential debates. Okay, then the second part of opening question to Mr. Simmons, you voted to support a GOP-led budget that required no tax increases on the citizens of Pennsylvania. What kind of compromises, if any, are you willing to make with Governor Wolf and the Democrat legislator on the next budget?
Look, I realize we have divided government, and I realize the governor beat Tom Corbett by, an overwhelming amount. We have said in the legislature, and we had tried to get to an agreement with the governor, that we would agree to his education spending increase that he wanted to. We just differed on how we would pay for it. I believe that we should get Pennsylvania out of the sale of wine and spirits. I think 48 other states allow for the private sale of wine and spirits. Pennsylvania is one of only 2 states that allow the system that we have here today. We also need public pension reform. Right now, $3 out of every 10 in our general fund budget is going to the public pension system. If we don't tackle this within 5 years, $5 in every 10 will be going to the public pension system. We have to tackle that. I also believe we need to reduce the size of the legislature. Mr. Coyle on the radio the other day, again, doesn't know the issue, said it'll never happen. Well, I would like to inform you, Bill, the last couple weeks, the Senate did pass the reduction of the size of the legislature. It has to pass in another session, again, because it's a constitutional amendment. This is the closest we've ever gotten to. I believe it is going to pass in the next session, and then it will go to vote a referendum for a vote by the people, and I believe the people will vote on it. So the fact that it will never happen just isn't true. We are making progress here in Pennsylvania. We have the largest full-time legislature in the United States of America here in Pennsylvania. The state of Texas, double the size of Pennsylvania, double the population of Pennsylvania, has a legislature that is half the size of ours. Our legislature is too big. Our legislature is bloated. It's why we need to do it. Yes, I am willing to vote to reduce the size of the legislature and vote my seat out of a job.
You could reduce the size of legislature by honoring your pledge. The liquor
Put a rhino
privatization.
like you in.
That's not the
Pardon me?
size. Let's say put a rhino like you.
Jesus Christ. Privatization is Justin's big issue, yet he's wondering why there hasn't been any progress. He's missed 50% of the committee meetings. How do you expect to get anything done when you miss 50%? You can go on the state legislator's site and you can go and individually look them up yourself. He's missed them. On top of that, the first line of defense for this liquor privatization is beer distributors. He has not spoken to Shangy's. That's beyond the pale. Why would you not talk to the biggest and most widely known beer distributor in the entire state of Pennsylvania that is literally 5 minutes from your
So are
office?
you against it? Are you against liquor privatization?
I'm asking you a question.
We'll get to those.
Of course I'm not. I don't think government should be involved in any commerce whatsoever. But I think we should privatize.
Again, he does. You notice this pattern. He doesn't answer anything. He talks in circles. He points fingers. That's what he does because he's not a Republican. He is a liberal. He is not a Republican. I did talk to Shangy's. I did talk to Skip Link. We have a bill that is trying to make it easier for beer distributors to have the first right to these new liquor licenses. It's an extremely hard issue. We don't have any Democratic support on the issue, and we don't have many union-backed Republicans, probably which you will be if you get in the legislature, a union-backed Republican. Which I'm sure you will be. And they won't because of the UFCW, which is the union that represents the liquor workers in the public sector.
Okay, Representative Simmons, thank you.
When did you meet with Nima?
I've been in there many times. I'm not gonna have a challenge of who knows who here.
You
right,
just
gentlemen,
said
please.
you just said you had met with Shangies. I met with Nima in January. He said he had never seen you. When did you see him?
I've been in there many times, Bill.
No, he's never seen you. Never met with him.
Okay,
Well,
gentlemen.
why don't you try
Let's move
voting
on.
sometimes? You miss 73% of the elections.
Let's move on, gentlemen.
I'm not paid to
Please,
vote.
when we do rebuttals, let's try to keep them to the approximate 30-second time limit. There's a red card over there. Okay, the opening question 3 will go to both candidates. So we'll start with you, Mr. Coyle. If elected, or in your case, Justin, re-elected, what would be your top 3 legislative priorities for your term, and how would you differentiate yourself from your opponent? Mr. Coyle's first.
I gave them in my opening. It would be building the coalition of the Lehigh Valley representatives and senators to try to help grow our business in the district. It would be the tax plan that I detailed, and it would be pension reform that starts in the legislative branch.
Okay.
So I'm going to give some news to Bill here. We already do have a caucus for the eastern part of Pennsylvania. It's called the East Central Caucus. We already do meet. It's with Republicans and Democrats. The other thing is, I think Bill thinks he's going to go into the legislature as a freshman and basically be the majority leader. No, you're not, Bill. You're going to get in there. They're going to tell you to sit in the back of the room and get them Diet Coke. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. That's how the legislature works. You're not going to be this guy that goes in there and changes things. And it's great that, you did this at the FOP meeting. You rattle off people's names. You don't vote in local elections. Lower Milford municipal elections, which are pretty important. You don't even bother to show up and vote in those elections. Do you even know what issues are important in Lower Milford? There's a pretty big issue in Lower Milford. You don't even show up to vote for that. But my three most important issues are: 1, property tax elimination. I'm a supporter of HB 76, eliminating school property taxes over 4 years. My second issue is I do believe we got to get the state out of the sale of wine and spirits. I think it is an important issue. I am not going to skirt around the issues like Bill Coyle and not take a stand on anything. Believe me, I ran for office once. It's easy not to be an incumbent. It's easy not to stand for anything and say the incumbent's horrible, blah, 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 blah. But if Bill gets in, he will find out you have to take a stand on issues. And 48 other states allow for the private sale of wine and spirits. I even say, even the bluest of blue states, California, New York, Illinois, allow for the private sale of wine and spirits. If our system was so good, why aren't these democratic states doing it? And the other thing we need is pension reform. And where we really need to start with pension reform is with the teachers. He says we need to start with the legislators. I do agree, but I will tell him, first of all, we can't get any Democrat support on pension reform, and we can't even get a lot of liberal Republican support, which again, I'm sure if you get in there, you'll be one of them, on pension reform. So, you think we're going to be able to start by voting on eliminating legislators' pensions? You have no idea what you're talking about, how it works, and you're just naive. I'm sorry to say, you're just naive.
Yeah. Would you like a rebuttal?
You show a profound amount of disrespect for a constituent who pays taxes for 24 years, who contributes to your salary, who is a Republican, who has been a Republican since you were in junior high school, and have voted when I voted, but I'm not paid to vote. You're paid to vote. You need to show up. You continue to talk about liquor privatization, yet you don't show up for the meetings. It's very simple. It's pitch and catch. Go to work.
Wait, I thought I
your
don't
job.
show up for the urban affairs meetings. Now it's the liquor.
You missed 30% of those.
Please.
First of all, I'd like to respond to that. Prove it. Second of all, it's not because it's not true. I've talked about the votes I've missed. Yes, I am a young man. He's running the campaign Karen Beyer ran against me 6 years ago. Young and experienced. I'm now a 3-term incumbent. I believe my record speaks for itself. Yes, my first term, I missed a few votes when my wife and I got married. We went away for our wedding. and we went to St. Lucia on our honeymoon. There was 2 weeks of unscheduled session. We went away. I missed some votes. 2 months ago, with my wife, we had our first baby. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm sorry.
Here's 20 votes in 2014 that you missed, that you failed to mention unless there was something that
I'm not
came
saying
up.
I didn't miss other votes either.
Yes, you
There's
did.
times I've been sick too as well, but every votes have been, I'm saying the majority of my votes that I've missed have been from my wedding and from when my first child was born. There have been votes that I've been excused for my late grandmother died in 2013. I missed some votes for being sick, but they all have to be excused by the Speaker of the House.
Yeah. I still continue to hear a lot of excuses. That's all I hear from you, excuses and accusations.
You don't vote the election.
Yeah, you don't even show up to vote.
I'm not paid to vote. He's paid to vote.
You're running.
I'm not gonna make excuses for me missing my votes. I should do better, but I missed them. He makes excuses for everything.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to the next set of questions, unless there's any questions from the audience. And please, let's come on up to the microphone if you have a question. And please, let's be civil and not yell out from the audience. Thank you.
I'm civil. I have a question for Mr. Coyle. My question is, I understand you have voted in the last, well, I don't know, I guess the 3 general elections, but I know because voting records are available for anyone, that there were 20 elections that you did not vote for. Now, I presume that the coming primary, you will vote.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you for reminding me. I'll show up for
That would be
that.
what percent if you vote for 3 out of 20? What percent of that is that you voted? How comes voting is now important to you all of a sudden? I don't understand, because voting is a privilege
It is.
and a responsibility.
Okay,
It's
thank
a
you.
privilege.
Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. I'll continue to say it. My job is not to vote. His job is to vote. Yes, it is. He gets paid to vote.
Are you not a citizen?
I am a citizen. You're right.
Please, let's.
I'm not
no
disagreeing
dialogue
with you.
from the audience. But you can answer the question. I just don't want the audience to. What he's done.
And the other part of it is, prior to my opponent entering politics, he missed 50% of his votes. That's public record as well. So I don't hear anybody complaining about that.
Well, he was very young.
Please.
More excuses for Justin. Terrific.
Okay.
I was registered in Philadelphia College.
30
but okay.
30 seconds.
I'm going to ask you, Bill. You have, I said, you have 2 lovely children in high school and middle school. If they graduate, would you not miss voting in Harrisburg to go be there, or if you had another child, or these are important life events? Seriously.
I don't begrudge you the votes that you made. I didn't even count those when I was talking about my... You missed votes that weren't associated with... And your peer group, it's public record. It's right here. This is it. You can look at it. But listen, his peer group, if you take those out, he's still over 20. His peer group misses 0.
That's
Zero votes.
not true.
That's in the public record as well.
Okay, let's move on here. I think there were. Okay, go ahead, Dean.
Thank you. My question concerns the Second Amendment, and particularly I heard Mr. Coyle in his first interview with Bobby Gunther Walsh saying that he supported Toomey Mansion. And I know we're not supposed to editorialize, but those are bills that come out after horrible shootings that really do nothing to prevent those. All they do is just restrict the rights of law-abiding citizens. So my question is, do you really support Toomey Mansion? And what is your views, more importantly, for state issues on our right to carry and the Castle Doctrine?
Yeah.
And that's a question to both.
So I agree with the right to carry. I agree with the Castle Doctrine, and I admit that I wasn't up to speed on Toomey Mansion. So I went to a gun shop in Red Hill, and I asked them, I said, do you guys, can you give me any opinion on Toomey Mansion? And those guys replied back to me, what the heck is Toomey Mansion? So I explained to it, because after I got out of Bobby's radio show, I looked it up online and I read it, and I took it to them and I explained it to them, and they said that that's already occurring in Pennsylvania. So I disagree with Toomey Mansion, because it's already in place here, so it's overreach. So that's my position on that.
I think one of the basic aspects when you're running for office is you should know the issues. You should be up to snuff on what the issues are. And that, I understand you didn't know what Toomey Mansion is. But part of running for office is you need to know what the issues are. I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm always backed by the NRA. I was a co-sponsor and a vocal supporter of the Castle Doctrine that give you a right to protect yourself in your own home. I believe that that's vitally, vitally important. And I gotta say, Mr. Coyle continues to belittle me that I've never had a real job, even though he's running for the job that he doesn't believe is a real job. So I guess that because he doesn't believe it's a real job, that he doesn't even study up on the issues because he has no respect for it. But at the same time, I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment. I support the Castle Doctrine. And somebody that says they support Toomey Mansion, somebody that's in bed with Jennifer Mann and Karen Beyer, I don't think you can trust them on the Second Amendment.
Do you need a reply? Okay. Was there another audience question? Okay, please come up.
I have two questions. My first question is to you, sir, and I want to thank you for doing a wonderful job in representing us like a real Republican should. There aren't many left like you. God bless you. In Pennsylvania, I know that we have way too many districts, but I also know that there's a rating that each district is rated in terms of its efficiency. I know there's probably a rating also in Lehigh County. Where does your district, the 131st district, stand in terms of its efficiency in the county of Lehigh and in the state of Pennsylvania?
Right. In terms of, if you're talking about expenses in the Lehigh Valley, Morning Call did a study, and we were the second lowest with expenses in the Lehigh Valley. The only reason why I was not the first, Steve Samuelson's the first with regard to expenses in Lehigh Valley. He has a very compact district in the city of Allentown. He only needs one office. I know my opponent has criticized me for having 3 offices, but I have gone out and knocked on 20,000 doors over the last 6 years, and the people in these districts, and you remember redistricting happened 2 years ago. Emmaus and Red Hill were used to having their own representatives and their own district offices. By far, what I heard is they wanted a district office in their community. Little to be known, we were able, by what we did, to keep our expenses with 3 offices at the same price as 1 office. Believe my office in Emmaus is the size of a bedroom, and I share an office with Bob Mensch down in Red Hill. These are not huge offices, but the idea, Mr. Coyle obviously doesn't believe in constituent services. That's the most important aspect of the job, is constituent services. Statewide, I'm in the lowest third of expenses.
Wow. Before your second question, do you have any comments you'd like to make to that question?
Yeah, it would be easy to spend less. I mean, even you don't compare yourself on your spending with your peers. You spend the least possible amount if you're a true conservative. You don't expand government by adding offices. Adding offices, whether he wants to believe it adds expenses or not, if you look at his expenses that he posts on his website, that he posts only to July, if you annualize those expenses, he vaults up, and it's either incompetent accounting, but if you annualize those expenses, it goes to the top 20, and that's what he'll have to defend. But he is expanding government, he's spending more money. Despite what you guys say, those are dated numbers that you're using.
30 seconds.
Again, top 20, ask Harry Lewis, the guy just lies. It's not true. You can look at I do direct expense. I go to McDonald's, I get a Happy Meal for a dinner. We have a per diem system where I could go and get $165 every night. I do a direct expense, which like 10 legislators do. So that is a lie. Expenses did go up this year because we were in a 9-month budget impasse. Everyone's expenses went up. We were out in Harrisburg in months that we shouldn't have been there. If you were in the legislature, your expenses would have went up. Everyone's expenses went up. So it's a bad comparison.
It's not a bad comparison because you only had through July. You didn't have December when you were remanded to the state.
My next question is for you, sir, Mr. Coyle. As you know, I was your township supervisor in Lower Milford, but maybe I'd like to know, and I was also a vice president of Lehigh County Association of Elected Officials, and a couple other things that I did just to support the rule of law. Sir, I would like to know why you're running for a state office when I've never seen you at a township meeting, I've never seen you at a county meeting. Why would you want to just think that you're qualified to just jump into the top when you're not even involved in your own neighborhood?
Well, I felt that if a 23-year-old who was living at home who had never had a job could get the job, then I felt that I had the skill set that would be able to have the job.
Yeah, but you're not involved in your own community.
I am involved in my own community, more so than this, my opponent. I coach baseball and basketball for kids and girls. It is involved in the community. It volunteers time. It's every night. It's not paid.
Again, I will say he is running the campaign that Karen Bayer did 6 years ago. It's the same people, the same forces running again. They cannot get over that I won this election 6 years ago. And you know what, Bill? It's time to get over it.
When Justin has served his 10 years and when he hits 50 and he collects his pension, he'll still be running against Karen Bayer. He is a one-trick pony. He can only run against Karen Bayer. I have to be a Karen Bayer proxy, and every future representative or anybody who wants to take his job is going to be a Karen Bayer acolyte, and it's just ridiculous.
First of all, when I came in office, again, you're wrong on the facts. I can vest into the pension after 5 years, and I voted for the law to change it to 10, but I can vest in the 5. So again, you don't know the issues.
Can everyone hear me okay? Can you turn it up just a little louder? Because I think the candidates can't hear me. Thank you. Maybe down just a little. Let's get them some back feed. Before we go to another audience question, let me ask a question that we got via email. Let's start with an education question. Governor Wolf has proposed using the same funding mechanism called for in HB 76, which was mentioned earlier, the Property Tax Elimination Act, to partially reduce property taxes. Would you, and this question is for both of you, would you be in favor of reducing property taxes as has been done so many times before, or would you be in favor of complete elimination of property tax and alternate sources of funding for education? We'll start with you, Representative Simmons.
No, I will not be in favor of partial elimination because we've been down this road before with Ed Rendell. Remember the casinos?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We were supposed to get property tax reduction. What do you get, $100? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, anytime, if you're going to do it, you have to eliminate school property taxes because you give the school board the opportunity to vote to raise them again, they're going to. So you're going to get a reduction one year, the next year the school board's going to raise them right back up. That's why I don't believe it. You have to eliminate it. You have to strike a sword right into the heart of that school property tax. So absolutely, positively, full-blown elimination, constitutional amendment with elimination. Yes, you do have to raise sales and income to pay for that, but you need to eliminate school property taxes altogether.
I agree with HB and SB 76, but in light of that, if that can't happen, I would be in favor of once somebody hits age 70, you taper down, not the $650, go to 50% and taper it down until, if they're in their 90s, that it's 5%. And that we have to protect the seniors, and that's what we should do if we can't pass HB 76.
So you would support a partial?
No, it wouldn't be a partial because my opponent is correct. They've never worked in the past. They always come back up.
Right. Okay. We'll take one from the audience now.
Good. All right. I just wanted to know a couple things. I know it's always difficult with the state budget when you have a Democratic governor, a Republican state Senate, and you have a Republican House. And I believe, Bill, and this question is directed towards Bill, I believe, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me verbatim, that you were willing to do some compromises in order to get that budget passed. Am I correct?
No, and I covered that.
Okay.
That wasn't a quote.
Okay, so you're, I said I didn't know if it was a quote or not. I don't want to be, but what type of things would you do? Because you said you were a salesman and you had all the sales experience. What type of things would you do in order, differently than what Justin has done, to try to pass a budget that's on time?
My approach would be to have an open door and talk to people. It doesn't mean that I compromise my principles or raise taxes. I have here my taxpayer protection pledge that I faxed in. I'm not going to raise your taxes despite what he says, and I would just handle it by being open. Well, I don't think I would have done anything differently.
Okay.
That governor went over the top, and there was nothing that could be done, and it worked out for the best.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was looking at my phone because I wanted to go back to the Morning Call article when Bill was quoted. Steve Essick, in Coyle, voters have a candidate who says he espouses what many see as the party's traditional business-centric view of government. He views compromise within reason as necessary to lawmaking. It's been part of my job to negotiate and to resolve problems, and I think if I go, should I get elected to Harrisburg with that mentality, because that's who I am, Coyle said in an interview. So obviously the Morning Call interviewer heard Bill Coyle say that he was going to compromise with the governor. And there is, again, there's not anything necessarily wrong with compromise, and we've had open doors with the Democrats. I've had legislation, I've had 2 bills signed into law that have been voted unanimously by Democrats as well. But this governor, you cannot compromise with this governor. I know this governor, I'm sure Mr. Coyle doesn't know this governor. This governor is not willing to compromise. He wants tax rate, he wants to raise taxes, he wants to raise regulations in Pennsylvania, and I'm not willing to do it.
Thank you. No? Okay. Audience question?
Thank you. So there's been a lot of discussion about conservatism, and I will try and adhere to your rules and phrase this in a way that both candidates can answer. Maybe an hour or so ago, prior to the meeting, you posted on your Facebook page the ACU acknowledgement that you recently received. And maybe a month or so ago on Bobby Gunther Walsh's radio show, he challenged you about your ratings for 2014, which were not positive. You dismissed that rating as irrelevant, and I just wonder what changed and what your thoughts were about the American Conservative Union's rating system.
Look, I have a rating lifetime of 82. Ryan McKenzie's around 83%. We're all very similar in the 80s. If you have a lifetime rating of 80% or above, you are considered someone that stands for conservative values. I got dinged a few years ago for a bill I voted for that said that if a parent has to give permission for their child to go into a tanning booth if they're under 18. I got dinged for it. The people in my district wanted me to vote for that, and I did. The problem I had with the ACU and what I was saying on the Gunther's program was a few years ago there were many moderate to liberal Republicans that got higher ratings than some conservatives, including myself, that voted for that monstrous gas tax. If you've noticed, our gas prices are a lot higher here in Pennsylvania than they are in New Jersey because the ACU decided not to score it. To me, that's a pretty anti-conservative vote, and they should have scored it, but they decided not to. So I do question some of their methods. But I did post that up there because Mr. Coyle is trying to point out that my rating is so bad, but if it's 80% or higher, which mine is lifetime, that's considered a conservative rating.
Mr. Coyle, would you like to comment?
And one of those votes that you either missed, I guess you had to miss, so it didn't, because I couldn't imagine you voting otherwise, but it was a defunding Planned Parenthood in the state of Pennsylvania. So it is important to be there for those votes. And people keep talking about my record in voting. I'm one of 65,000 people in the district. He's one of 203, and he's one of 160-odd Republicans. So his vote is much more important, despite the fact that he's paid to be there.
Okay. Before I take another audience question, let me get another email in here. This is again related to education. When we hear the term local control with regards to education, most people think about curriculum, not funding. What do you believe people are more concerned about, curriculum or funding? And in your opinion, which is more important, curriculum or funding? You can start this question.
Well, funding is more important to people than curriculum. We're fortunate and we're blessed in this school district to have 5 of the best schools, and we have private schools that are terrific. And that's what sets us apart and keeps our property values. Our curriculum, if we're not fans in this room of Common Core, we think it restricts teachers. And I think when it relates to the school districts, we need to work more on eliminating the administrative roles than going after teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for local control. I mean, I am not at the federal level, but my personal preference at the federal level is Jimmy Carter implemented a federal Department of Education. I do not believe we should have a federal Department of Education in the United States government. It should be at the state level. We should have more local control. We should have state control and local control. Yes, you need a benchmark for reading, writing, and arithmetic with testing to make sure people are on the right path. But as Mr. Coyle said, Common Core, no child left behind, Democrat and Republican policies, I totally disagree with. I believe local control with funding and curriculum is vitally important. I think they both go hand in hand.
Okay. Real quick then, since you both mentioned Common Core, it sounds yes or no in favor of Common Core?
Absolutely not.
No. Okay, how about PA Core, which is the state standard?
No.
No. Okay.
There's too much testing, and the testing is forcing down kids that should be putting blocks on top of each other and not being forced to read and write at such a young age. They should be learning social skills.
Okay. Just for the public's knowledge, Common Core and PA Core are in essence identical. The state took the federal Common Core standards and just renamed them PA Core so that people would be able to say it's not Common Core. Anyway, I'll take an audience question.
This is a follow-up question related to the discussion on SB 76. I was pleased to hear that both of you are in favor of that. As Representative Simmons pointed out, the elimination of property taxes would require the increase in income and sales tax. To balance things out, the funding has to come from someplace. I was struck by your interview yesterday with Mr. Coyle with Gunther, where you made a great statement about the fact that you had signed the Norquist Pledge and said that you would never raise taxes for any reason. So how do you square that pledge, never raising taxes, with support for SB 76, which requires increasing sales and income taxes?
Because it's a net lowering of taxes. It's not raising taxes.
Not for the individual that has their income tax or sales tax increased. It is not a net zero to them.
Well, if they're paying property tax, it is.
It is not. It is not. There will be winners and losers in that situation. Winners and losers. And you pledged that you would not increase taxes for any reason, and you're going to be doing that.
My opponent has made the same pledge.
Did you also have a comment on that question?
Was the question directed at me?
Well, I'm trying to keep questions to both of you.
Look. It's a tax shift. It's a tax shift. You know, you have to move. You know, if you're going to eliminate school property taxes, you do have to make up the money somewhere because we have to pay for our schools. It is a tax shift. Some people do argue, you know, it does hurt income owners a little bit more, but at the same time, senior citizens who are retired are not paying an income tax, and the sales tax does not affect people. Higher sales tax does not affect the people as much who are on lower income. So it's a very, very, very challenging, strong, and divisive debate. There are a lot of opinions. That's why it's been debated for so long. I personally think it's worth a shot to try it. because the system we have right now in Pennsylvania is not working. Tennessee has a higher sales tax, and they have next, like it's about 9%. They have next to zero, almost zero school property taxes, and it works very well for them. So I do think it's worth at least trying something. I mean, I would argue it's a little bit more of a tax shift, but you're right, there will be winners and losers.
Okay. Another audience question?
To follow up on the property tax, what do you both propose to help senior citizens with the property tax, and how would you talk to the school districts about that?
You want to let Representative Simmons go first?
Again, you know, I think the answer is we have to go toward elimination. You know, I have tried in the legislature. I was a member of the Education Committee for my first 2 terms, and yes, I did show up to all of my committee meetings. I was an Education Committee member for my first 2 terms, and we tried vehemently. If you actually took all the gambling money and put it in a pot, you could eliminate school property taxes for all of the senior citizens. It's common sense, right? Why don't we do that? Well, the PSEA and the teachers union is adamantly opposed to that. And that's all I'm saying. It's about who you surround yourself with. And when the president of the Teachers Union Association, who's a radical Democrat, is supporting, and I have a Facebook shot here saying that Bill Coyle, as a PSEA, will represent our interests in Harrisburg. What does that mean? Does that mean that he's going to represent the people? Or does that mean he's going to represent the PSEA? Because Sue Arnold is a radical Democrat. So the obstruction that we continue to have is the teachers union, and I've always been willing to stand up at them. They continue to come at me. I believe they're coming at me again through Bill Coyle. So,
Mr. Coyle?
Sue Arnold is a woman that lives down the street from me. Her husband is a Republican police officer in Whitehall who coached baseball against me for years and years. They have 3 daughters that are in the Southern Lehigh School District, and for you to impugn her and cast these nasty insults towards her is just insulting. It should be beneath your office, and it should be embarrassing. Could you repeat it, Vicki?
Yes, what I would like you to repeat is how you would help the senior citizens, and how would you talk to the school districts in helping the senior citizens? Let's just say like Lehigh County.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do?
Well, I thought I outlined that when I was talking
I
about
want more depth.
the property tax.
Want more depth? What would you do?
We'll get to that when I get elected. How about that, Vicki?
Now wait a second. There's something I want to suggest here.
Can you hear me?
Is there any programs in place now that you know of anywhere nearby that they're already doing things to help the seniors?
The PaceNet and yeah, but that's
No,
minor.
I mean in the school districts themselves. See, Lehigh County actually has a school district that helps their senior citizens by holding the property tax level until their houses sell. Is that something like you would work on? And why didn't you know about this since you know Susan Arnold?
Well, that tells you how little I know about her. I mean, that she's not surrounded me.
But it's
Please,
the education that
ask your
is the
question and
issue.
let them answer, please don't.
Okay, then please answer.
What was your question again? You seem to
I
be
know,
talking-
this is
you talk-
typical.
you talk around and around.
No, I'm not talking around. If you want to get into, oh no, I'm not going to do that because you were down in
Listen,
Montgomery County.
Okay,
and lied to me.
let's move on then.
Listen,
The question is, what are you going to do for the senior citizens? You said you have a plan. Tell me your plan.
I told you my plan,
Which is what?
which is to lower their rate.
How?
I'll figure that out when I get there.
Okay, thank you, please. Let me do an email question here. This one is in relation to the pension. A few years ago, the underfunded public pension of Sears and Peasers stood at about $50 billion. Now it is over $60 billion. Do you believe we have a public pension crisis in PA? And if so, do you have any solutions? I believe it's Mr. Coyle's turn.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should move them to 401k programs, but I still maintain that it is such a large problem that you should start in the legislative branch to have more accountability and more leverage when you go after the teachers.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a $64 billion unfunded liability. Of course it's a problem. We have to go at it. And the first thing you have to do is stop the bleeding. And that's the thing I have constantly said from the beginning is the first thing you have to do is all new employees have to go into a 401k defined contribution system like 90% of the private sector do. You have to do it, including legislators. But this idea that we're just going to go in there and target legislators first, you know, it sounds good. It does. And I agree. I think that it's crazy what goes on in Harrisburg, but it's not going to happen. We can't even get a full pension bill through with this governor and the House Democrats for teachers and other public sector workers. I will say, and Bill and I do agree on this, I do believe policemen and first responders should be exempt from pension reform. I do. They aren't eligible for Social Security, and there's a lot of other issues we can get into with that. But you have to bite at the whole apple. You can't just go and say, we're going to go after legislators. And besides, legislators, honestly, compared to the teachers and the rest of everyone, are like 2% of what the unfunded liability are.
Here you go. Sorry about that. It appears the equipment's even getting a workout tonight, so. Audience question?
Yeah, I'd like to make this a little bit more local, particularly for the people of Emmaus here. And you've been particularly, Mr. Simmons, vocal in your disgust, I would say, for the Route 29 and Route 100 construction project. You've said that you support the Upper Milford Township manager. You posted a letter on your page that was about a year ago, I think. But nothing has been accomplished. And I believe that referred to progress maybe looking toward 10 years from now, 2026. You sit on the Transportation Committee. Why are you not making any progress? And I guess for Mr. Coyle to balance this, is there anything that you might do differently?
Well, look, you know, a transportation bill passed, Act 89, a few years ago. I did vote against it because it raised gas tax by 39 cents, which I believe is ridiculous. We have the highest gas tax here in the United States now. Look, I sit on the Transportation Committee. I've been very vocal about this. I have been very vocal in committee. I've been very vocal with Ron Young and other local people here with PennDOT District 5 to try to get that through. We have two problems. One, we have the largest amount of structurally deficient roads and bridges in Pennsylvania out of the entire United States of America. We had a hearing on it the other day.
Can you talk about the Route 29 and Route 100?
Can I talk?
Can you just answer the question?
Can I talk, please? I am answering the question. Are you Coyle's plant? We have the largest amount of structurally deficient roads and bridges in the United States of America. PennDOT is extremely backed up because their first responsive to where they're going right now is to bridges that are literally ready to cave in because we don't want another Minnesota in 2005. That is really what's going on. We're doing the best. This was a problem long before I got into office. I'm doing the best I can. We also have Senator Brown on the Appropriations Committee. You're welcome to call him as well if you'd like. You know, I mean, if you're going to blame me for everything, but we're trying the best we can to get it through.
I don't think I'm blaming you. I'm asking you why no progress has been made.
I just told you about the structurally deficient roads and bridges.
And why there was a post made from a year ago where you, as a member of the Transportation Committee, say that the progress has been unacceptable, but you sit on the committee. So
I'm trying to tackle it.
Okay.
I'm trying to tackle it.
Thank you.
As I'm sure you're aware, I'm frustrated with government too, and government is not necessarily the most efficient entity in the world.
Mr. Coyle?
Pat Brown is on the Appropriations Committee. Have you spoken with Pat about the 29 corridor problems?
I meet with Pat every month.
And why haven't you two been, he's one of the most powerful guys in the Senate, why haven't you been able to put pressure on PennDOT?
Well, Bill, he's your senator. Why don't you go talk to him?
It's not my job.
Well, you're running for it.
I hope it is my job.
Hey, Justin, this question's for you. There's been a lot of talk this evening about senior citizens. What is your office doing for senior citizens now?
Right, and constituent services, in my opinion, are one of the most important aspects of the job. We're representatives of the people. People expect services from their state representatives. We have an office in Coopersburg, we have an office in Red Hill, we have an office in Emmaus. I know I've been criticized for having too many offices. My district was expanded to 24 square miles from when it was mostly in Allentown before. I am not going to make a senior citizen down in Red Hill drive 24 miles to get district office representation in Emmaus or Coopersburg. I don't think that's fair. Senior citizens, a lot of them don't have internet. They don't have computers. So we can help them with PennDOT services. We can help them with their property tax rent rebate forms. We can help them with all different kinds of state services. They can come in and find out what's going on with legislation. It's very important. It's, and to belittle the constituent service aspect of the job is really, it's either troubling or you're just extremely uninformed, because it's the most important part of the job, as I can tell you, especially for the senior citizens.
Mr. Coyle?
You're beginning to sound like a liberal Republican. My feeling on these offices is if you can have 60% of the entire legislative body, both Republican and Democrat, operate a single office in the district, 92.5% operate 2 offices in the district or 1 office, he can certainly get by with less than either Coopersburg or Emmaus that are less than 7 miles apart. The elderly aren't that infirm that they can't get 7 miles to another office.
Look, to me, it's all about what you spend, right? Yeah. I'm in the lowest third of office expenses. A lot of people with 1 or 2 offices spend double what I spend on 3. It's about what you spend all together. It's not about, if I had 7 offices and I spent less than somebody with 1, what does it matter? It's about what you spend.
Yeah, I spend a lot less for my housing than my sister does, who lives in New York. It's relative to where you are. You can spend less. You don't compare yourself when you're spending to other representatives. You try to be the best you can for your district with the least. People are cutting staff, they're cutting offices all over the legislative branch. I talked to Marcy Topol. She's cutting her expenses 25%.
Marcy endorsed me, by the way.
As will every other politician will endorse you. That's the safe bet.
Go ahead, ma'am. Can you turn that?
Talking about right now. I was listening to you the first time you were on Gunther, and this kind of bothered me because you were criticizing Justin for spending money on flyers and town hall. This is the kind of stuff we want. I mean, I'm a constituent. I want to know what's going on. And sometimes I'm not paying attention and I get a flyer and I go, oh, geez, I didn't realize that was happening. I mean, are you not going to do that? Is that what you're saying?
What are the type of things that you want to hear about?
I think the offices are great. I mean, I live in Macungie. You know, Coopersburg is far away. I think it's a good idea as a district where you have to be able to get in touch.
And what services did you utilize in those offices that you visited?
Well, to go and get any kind of forms or papers or things like that.
What type of forms or papers?
Let me get back to my question about the flyers.
Okay.
Those are the things that you were just the whole lot of it. Like he says, I think constituent services is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And you're saying we're wasting money, but if you're you care about money, it's not that you want to cut. And I want to know, are you not going to do that? So you're saying you're not going to do that. You're not going to have flyers, you're not going to have town halls where we can be informed.
No, I'm going to have town halls. I'd like to have town halls.
But you said on Gunther that he was doing this and it was a waste of money and he was using it for his own benefit, and really it's not. It's for the benefit of the constituents.
Well, the timing of it was very suspect.
But he does them all all the time.
Yeah.
It's been going on for years, so.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
an unnecessary expense. Everybody here talks about cutting taxes.
Please.
There's
Well,
actually...
wait. Are you done, Mr. Coyle?
Again, you notice he didn't answer the question. If he's going to do teletown halls, I'm willing to bet the bank if Bill Coyle gets elected, he's going to do teletown halls, he's going to have all the offices, and he's going to do all the things that state representatives do. That being said, there is a blackout period with 2 months before the election, so you're not even allowed to time it. I do 2 to 3 teletown halls every year, and again, you lied again on the radio when you said I targeted robocalls to only Republicans. That's illegal, Bill. I can't do that with state taxpayer dollars. Our robocalls and our teletown halls go to every voter in the district, and your campaign consultant should know that as well because he's representing the members that do that as well.
Can you provide that list, because I didn't get a call? I mean, you said you have it, it goes out to every please, you're a public official, you should be able to publicize that list.
Actually, when we looked on the when I looked on the list of who was on the line, you were on there, so
I was.
you lied again.
Jesus.
Okay, I'll take one more question from the audience. Go ahead.
I'd like to talk about a town hall that I attended. Justin is very supportive of veterans and servicemen. It was at the Coopersburg VFW. It changed my life because I heard that 22 young men and women are taking their lives, suicides, in the service. He had, I don't remember everyone that was there, the panel that you had, there were Gold Star parents.
Do you have a question?
Well, yes, I would like to know how both of you are going to conduct something like this. This is really amazing. It was very, very good.
Why is the...
Thank you.
I have more of a comment than a question, but why is the VFW in Coopersburg no longer operational or open?
I do not know.
Okay, I don't either.
And it was open, the meeting was supposed to be 2 hours. My husband and I left after 3¼ hours.
Mm-hmm.
There was a seal there was a panel, the head of the, oh goodness, what was it? The officer that came.
That's fantastic.
The psychiatrist who had been at 9/11 and had been over to address the tsunami in Japan. He was there.
Thank you.
It was tremendously,
Right. Thank you. Does either candidate want to address that comment?
No, I mean, I've always been so proud to support veterans. One of my great friends is Heather Lloyd over at Critter Corral. She has a program called Logan's Heroes, which trains dogs for veterans with PTSD. They had a great event over at the State Theater the other week. My wife and I were fortunate enough to attend that event. That's one of the aspects of the job that I really do love, going out and trying to help people, specifically our veterans that serve us overseas and protect us in our way of life and allow us to have events and allow people like Bill and I to disagree and have events like this tonight, because I think it's one of the most important freedoms that we have, and I will always continue to fight for our veterans.
Would you like to make a comment? Okay. All right. I told the candidates we would stick to about an hour and a half for the debate portion. So I think that leaves us with just over 10 minutes. I'll just ask a couple more questions, and then we have questions that were sent that were pretty much yes/no questions. So we figured we'd call it the lightning round, so that they're just going to be simple yes and no answers to speed things along. But before I get to those, I have a question that was under crony capitalism, a topic that many here probably love. What do you think, and Senator Brown was mentioned, but what do you think of Senator Brown's bill, SB 935, to include, beyond property tax, retroactive use of sales and income taxes in TIF zones? Would you oppose legislation that is looking to include sales and income tax in the these gimmicks like the TIF.
Yeah, I would oppose that.
You would oppose that, okay?
I would oppose it.
Okay. Yeah, that was a nice, simple one. There is currently a bill moving through the state legislature, which would legalize medical marijuana. What are your thoughts on the issue of medical marijuana?
This is where we differ. I fully oppose legalizing marijuana, but I do support medical marijuana.
Okay.
I did vote to oppose this measure. I personally do believe that we should have medical marijuana for people that suffer from seizures and other things, but I did decide to take the advice from the medical community, including the American Medical Association and 150 different professional medical organizations, including all of my local doctors that did oppose it, so I did err on the side of caution on the bill.
Okay. Next question, still along the same lines. There's also legislation dealing with industrial hemp. What are your positions on legalizing farming for industrial hemp?
I don't think I'm informed enough on that. I'm not familiar with that issue at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would need to see more of the bill. I think overall, you know, if I would probably, you know, lean in toward if it was regulated and supporting it, but I would need to see, you know, I would need to see legislation on what's in the bill.
Okay. This is a question on prevailing wage. Since any project that uses public funds automatically puts the project into the prevailing wage category, what are your thoughts on prevailing wage?
I'm opposed to any minimum wage or prevailing wage initiatives. I think it's, frankly, I think we need to change our language on minimum wage laws. That I think our response to minimum wage should be that it's a racist policy, that it affects the black community, especially black youth, with the most negativity. And I think we as Republicans should change our language to that, because then we throw it back at the Democrats and, you know, they have no response.
Okay.
Well, again, prevailing wage is completely different than minimum wage, but anyway, it's a different story for another day. I oppose prevailing wage. It totally drives up cost of public projects for taxpayers, because what happens is we average the union rate of what labor costs down in Philadelphia, and we bring that to the whole state, and you wonder why our finances are in the state they are here in Pennsylvania today. Prevailing wage, you know, I always look at it, we should spend the way we do in our own homes. You know, and I believe in a free market. And I believe that the government should operate like a free market. And I think prevailing wage is outdated. You know, Davis Bacon, the federal law was created in the 1950s. It's time to get with the times. It's 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. Question, Representative Simmons. I believe you're currently not enrolled in the public retirement system. Is that correct?
Correct. I am not taking a pension. I signed the pension declaration form, and I will not be taking a pension.
Okay, that was the question. If re-elected, will you keep that?
I will not take the pension.
Okay. Mr. Coyle, if elected, will you participate in the public pension system?
I will not.
Okay. Representative Simmons, do you accept per diem payments?
I do not accept per diems. I do direct expense. One of the things a lot of people don't know about Harrisburg is we have a ridiculous system, and I've tried to change it on legislation. I am a co-sponsor. That you can get a $165 per diem just for going to Harrisburg. You do not have to provide a receipt to show your expenses. So you can go to Harrisburg and spend $70 and go submit a per diem for $165. I always come in way under $165, so I do the direct expense. That's why my expenses are always in the third lowest in the state of Pennsylvania. You can look at my receipts and where I eat. I go to McDonald's.
Same question, Mr. Coyle. If elected, will you do per diem?
No, I'll submit receipts just like I do in my normal job.
Okay, excellent. Okay, now I'll move on to the lightning round. We'll just go back and forth quickly, just the yes and no answers. Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Coyle. Will you work with Governor Wolf if he continues to support a tax and spend agenda?
Absolutely not.
Representative Simmons?
I think my record shows no.
Okay. Representative Simmons, will you stand up to special interest groups like the Teachers Union who oppose property tax elimination and the Chamber of Commerce who support crony capitalism?
Always have and always will, and that's why they're after me again.
I agree with Mr. Simmons.
Okay. This one for you. Do you support Article 1, Section 21 of the state constitution? The right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned.
Yes, I do.
Representative Simmons?
Absolutely.
Do you support, well, we covered this one, I'll just skip over that. Do you support voter ID in Pennsylvania? Yes. Representative Simmons?
Absolutely. I was a co-sponsor of the bill, and when I spoke on the floor, I gave an example of 50 different things you do in your daily life that require a photo ID, including getting Sudafed, cashing a check, using your credit card. I think it's ridiculous and an insult to Americans that we don't have to have some sort of system to show our photo ID when we vote here in Pennsylvania. We voted for it. Tom Corbett signed it into law, and the Supreme Court threw it out.
Okay. Lightning round. Just keep that in mind.
Sorry.
You could take a little longer if you'd like.
No, I agree. And you saw the fraud that happened in Philadelphia with Mitt Romney's running for president, and it's 56 individual precincts where there was not one single vote cast for him. There has to be an ID.
With West Virginia becoming the 26th state to become a right-to-work state, will you support Pennsylvania becoming a right-to-work state? We'll start with you, Mr. Coyle.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I always have and always do get the Pennsylvania Right to Work Association endorsement.
This was covered earlier, but I'll ask one more time. Would you be in favor of eliminating prevailing wage requirements?
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. I don't know if you're aware of the history of this issue. If not, you can ask me and I'll elaborate. But do you think East Penn School District should have faced any penalties for burying hazardous waste on school properties at West Coastville Elementary School in violation of state law? You can go first.
You know, it's a tough issue, and it's something that I would have to look into more, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea about that one.
Okay. Will you introduce or co-sponsor legislation to eliminate property taxes, school property taxes?
Always have and always will.
Yes.
Okay. If given the opportunity, would you support an education voucher system bringing the free market and parent choice to the education system?
Yes.
Yes, I was, in my first term, I was a supporter of SB1, which did that.
Okay. That does it for the questions that I have. If anyone in the audience, we have just a couple minutes left. If you have any simple questions like that, I'll take them now. If not, we'll move into the closing statements. Okay, closing remarks. I believe, Mr. Coyle, you went first. So, Representative Simmons.
How much time we have?
You have about 4 minutes.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you guys all coming out here today. This is truly, truly a great crowd. As I stated earlier, you know, 5 years ago, I did make a pledge to serve for 3 terms and then leave office. I believe my record of being a conservative, fighting Governor Wolf, standing for our values, has made people want me to continue to run for office. The polling shows it. The people on the ground have I've seen it. I have not done, again, anything that is illegal or wrong. I continue to go back. I've been in office for 5 years. Mr. Coyle has never once called my office, never once emailed my office, never been to one of my town halls, never been to any one of my events, not political events, any one of my issue events, whether it was on the severance tax or any different issues. He was never, ever engaged at any of my events. And all of a sudden, he's interested now because of the term limit pledge. Yes, I do question his intentions based on the term limit pledge. Honestly, tonight, he sounds like he agrees with me on everything. So you wonder where this is coming from. And I go back to, it's who you surround yourself with. And when the press is reporting and people are saying that a former Democratic State House member recruited him to run against me in the Republican primary, when my former Democrat opponent, Kevin Dealey, posted on his Facebook that the only way to take Justin Simmons out is in a Republican primary, and 2 days later, Bill Coyle announces, yeah, I do have questioned his intentions, because you are who you surround yourself with. Sue Arnold, again, I bring her up, and she's a public figure because she's in the teachers union, so it's fair game. Sue Arnold is an extreme left-wing radical. Go look at her Twitter account. She continues to insult Republicans. She hates Republicans. And she is not at all conservative. She is an extreme left-wing liberal. And I want to get the truth out there, because I did make a mistake on the term limit pledge, but I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I'm going to let somebody who's not a conservative ride that into office. That's a liberal. I'll be damned if I'm going to do that. Because Mr. Coyle, he either doesn't know the issues or he's hiding from the issues, because he won't answer the questions. He won't answer why he's running for office. Okay, you're against the term limit pledge. Okay, that's fine, that's great. But then he agrees with me on all these different things, but then he surrounds himself with all these different liberal people that have always opposed me in Democrat elections. Do you know, 4 years ago, the teachers union, you talked about special interest Giovanni, moved, after I beat Karen Byer, moved the union president from Easton School District into my district to run against me. And that's when I had Allentown, that was with Obama on the ballot. I won that election by 400 votes. They put $500,000 against me. To me, you want to know where I stand? Look at that election. I stand for the people. I stand for conservative principles. I stand for the taxpayer. I don't stand for special interests. I say what I believe in, and I will always continue to do that. And that's why I'm running for a 4th term, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Mr. Coyle?
Thank you. And thank you, John, for hosting. Thank you, Giovanni, for moderating. And thank you all for being here. It seems like there's quite a few people here for Justin. The reason I'm running is at some point there has to be integrity and accountability in our political process. If you look at the polls, people do not trust our politicians, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here because I'm a 47-year-old man who's been successful in his career. I've done great things in my career. I have a list of accomplishments. And not once did he give any of his accomplishments for the district. It was all excuses about how I couldn't get Route 29 done. I can't get liquor privatization. I don't go to meetings because I have this excuse and that excuse. And what it boils down to is, are you going to endorse somebody that will change their mind on a pledge because constituents told him to? And that's what it boils down to. Are you going to endorse somebody that made a pledge that he himself attributes towards his victory in his first election? And that's what it's going to be up to. It doesn't sound like a lot of you guys care about integrity, but we'll see on election day. Thank you for coming.
Thank you both for joining us this evening, Mr. Coyle, Representative Simmons. Thank you to the audience for attending. John, did you have any messages? Or?
I'll say just a few things. I want to thank the representatives for coming here. We're very happy that we can get them both. And I want to thank everybody for coming. This is very fantastic. I'd love to have more of these things, and I'd like to ask the 2 of the representatives here, whichever one makes it the next time, you know, non-biased here, will you be willing to come to town hall, stay here, and offer your explanations and all? There we go. So as long as we can get people interested like yourselves, spread the word. And if you want to help out in this kind of an organization, let us know also. We'd love to have it keep going. Thank you very much. And there's coffees, teas. Actually, I can put out some little chips and pretzels, and you can have a meet and greet with the representatives if you don't mind sticking around for a couple minutes. Thank you. Take care.
Well done, John.